Well, hello and welcome. Well, today we are looking at ethnic clashes at Agbogbloshie. In fact, we're going to delve into the history of how Agbogbloshie came about, how the settlement came about, narrowed it down to why the clash happens, and why is it that they're so volatile, that any little thing, sparks a route out of control. Indeed, since we are talking about route, we may venture out of Ghana, snip into South Africa and see what they are doing with their route. Is this something to do with the heat? Why do we get so aggravated at the slightest little thing? And indeed, is this what this generation as black people want to leave behind for posterity, that once upon a time they lived their great-grandfathers who could not tolerate anything and that everything has to be bloody and murderous? Well, what happened in Agbogbloshie? One innocent little girl strayed into an area where he shouldn't stray, and here we are today. Folks, I have with me in studio Alimo Diallo, who is the regional coordinator of WANEP, and Ibad Ibrahim, international news and security analyst, would also join us, and we'll have a little insight, and we will try this hour to find out why or how we can solve the Agbogbloshie problem. My name is Nana Sakwao, and this is PM Express. We're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying. Ethnic clashes at Agbogbloshie, and I have people in the studio who get us to understand why it is that these things happen. Also, we'll be speaking to Abdullah Hassan, who is the secretary of the Slum Unions of Ghana. He actually lives there, and believe it or not, he is at the University of Ghana studying to get himself a degree. So it makes you ask yourself, why would somebody studying at Legon, trying to get himself a degree, live in a place like Agbogbloshie? But that tells you how diverse the people who live there are. Probably that's how diverse the problems are too. But to my immediate left is Alimo Diallo, regional coordinator of WANEP. Alimo, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And my own brother Ibad Ibrahim, international news and security analyst. And I have to get him back because I'm talking security again. Ibad, sorry, but I have to get you back in.
No problem, that's fine.
Very good, very good. Ibad, I'll start with you. One innocent little girl, that's what we are told, strays into an area. It's not clear what she did, but the people there are not happy. The Dagombas are not happy with what she did. I mean, people are dying. What is it?
I think Nana, every conflict has got remote and immediate, causes. And just like the guinea fowl saga, that was the final straw that broke the camel's back in the conflict in the north some few decades ago. I think this girl that got marooned belonged to one faction within the camp or within the area, the slum. And it's a shanty town. Sanitation is so poor over there. Many of the young people there are not employed. I'm surprised there is someone who is at Legon staying at such a place. So therefore, I believe that there are two ways you could look at this. Already Agbogbloshie is a flashpoint. And every now and then, here and then, we hear reports that a few people have been injured. There have been skirmishes here and there because of the makeup of the people living there. You know so well that when the Kumkumbes fought against the Nanumbes and also fought against the Nchumrus, they were internally displaced people. And some of them sought refuge in the southern part of the country. And Accra is an expensive city. When you come to Accra, you can't just go and rent a place at East Legon or cantonments. It takes time. So because of cheap housing, and people would want to go and stay at Agbogbloshie. And I know you've done an extensive expose about old Fadama Nana. So therefore, I think it has turned into a cauldron for all the people who would want to stay in Accra, but do not have the wherewithal to set themselves up during the early days. But the twist that surprises me a bit is the involvement of non-Ghanaians. I know Alimo Diallo would come in. The Zamara people, just like the Gao people, are from northern Mali. So for them to have pitched camp against a certain indigenous group, I think that is quite worrying, especially at such a moment where reporting cases of violence from the Fulani herdsmen and all that. So therefore, let's not treat this with kid gloves. Let's not gloss over it as one of those, mere skirmishes we've been recording. Let's give it the needed urgency. And moving forward, Nana, I'm not enthused about the way we react security in a kinetic way.
Before you move forward, let me acknowledge Abdallah Al-Hassan, who is the Secretary for the Islam Union of Ghana, and he will give us an account. Abdallah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. Abdallah, I hope you can hear me clear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. I can also hear you clear. Abdallah, you know, Agbogbloshie is on the news again, and if it's in the news, then it's a bad story. Can you give us a rundown of what happened today and why people got that angry?
Yes. First of all, good evening to you and your panelists and the listeners. What happened this morning actually was that a child, she's actually around 7 or 8 years old, whose mother works at the Agbogbloshie scrap yard, and her father also works there. So both her parents work there. And you know, the scrap yard is very close to the onion market. So the child went from the scrap yard to the onion market to attend to nature's call. So she went and put it at around the onion market. So the people at the onion market, who happened to be the Zambarama tribe from Niger, was not happy with what the child did, and so they assaulted the child, kind of they beat the child. So the child cried and came back to the mother.
I missed that. What exactly did the child do?
She went to toilet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Behind the onion market.
Okay.
So we go to the onion market. Right behind there's a group of people who sit there. So the child actually went to toilet behind the onion market, but quite close to those guys sitting there. So she was beaten up, and she cried and went and reported to her mother. Then her mother went with her to the place, and there was an argument between the mother and the guys. So the guys assaulted the mother as well. And then the mother also went and reported to her husband. And because the husband also worked with other people, they moved in a group and went there. So this degenerated into a fight between that group that was sitting there earlier and then the new group that came. So 2 people were badly injured and were taken to the hospital.
So was it just between groups, or is there any tribal sentiment behind this fight?
Yeah, it actually started between that Nigerians at the onion market and the child's parents and their few friends. But then when the child's father was badly wounded and was taken to the hospital, and I must mention that the child's father is actually a scrap dealer and also a dagomba.
Okay.
And he was wounded again by the Zamarama tribe who beat his own daughter earlier. So the Dagomba people were very angry with that, and so they attacked the Zamarama guys who wounded the man earlier. So it degenerated to a very serious fight. Fortunately, before it could get very fatal, the police came in, and the police did a very good job by controlling the crowd and stopping the fight. I think that's what happened today.
What if you know, these Aryans comes with their onions tomorrow morning? Would they be able to trade in peace, or will the guys come back for revenge?
I didn't get the question.
I mean, tomorrow morning when the onion, you know, dealers or the onion traders come in to sell, will they be able to sell in peace, or the Dagombas will come for a revenge?
Yeah, they will be able to sell in peace. In fact, around 3 p.m. they were back and doing their normal business. Even though the police were still around, but there were not as many as they were in the morning. So there were some 2 police armored vehicles, and then everybody was doing their business.
Now, before I let you go, have we found a solution for Old Fadama, or we are still waiting for God?
We have not found solution yet. So we are still trying.
Is evacuation going to work? Because, you know, every now and then you hear we're going to evacuate them.
Yes, they keep saying it, but then now it has toned down a bit because the story used to be they will evict us by force, but now they have agreed that it's not possible to evict us by force. So we are waiting for the next move, whether they are going to relocate us or they will just help us redevelop the area so that it will look very nice.
100,000 30-acre land, it's almost impossible to, develop with 100,000 people on a 30-acre land.
It is. It is very possible. In fact, countries that have paid much attention to urban development are able to do it. If you go to Kenya now, there's a serious slum upgrading in the Kibera area. And in fact, as the government's commitment, the government provides now free wireless internet in the slum so that to encourage the youth and the children to be innovative. And it's happening. Kibera's population is far, far more than the population of Old Fadama. So it can happen. If it can happen in Kibera, why can't it happen in Old Fadama?
Thank you very much, at least you've given us an insight there. Thank you very much. And I will go to get insight of what the regional police commander said with regards to the incident that happened. So if we have that insight.
We had information that they were clashing. Then quickly we deployed police here. There was a need to bring more reinforcements, so we brought some from the FPU to add to the number that we had. And then that have been able to help us at least to contain the situation up to this level. So for now, we will continue to be on the ground until at least there is really perfect peace. Okay, when we came here, it was as a result of a woman from the scrap dealer side going to defecate at the side of the onion sellers. And then they were not happy why the woman should cross over to come and bring a child to defecate there. And so there was some small altercation, and then the woman went and informed the husband at the scrap dealer side, who mobilized to also come and confront these people who attacked the woman and the child. So based on that, that is where the stone throwing, the missiles were being thrown here and there until police came in to come and solve the situation. Well, I don't know the root cause, whether they have any remote cause, there's anything between, but I think always, we have different ethnic groups over here, and then they work according to their ethnic lining. And so when there's a least transgression against one side, the other people mobilize to attack. If it is something that is within the same ethnic group, then it doesn't become a problem. But if one ethnic group attacks the other ethnic group, no matter how whimsical the attack will be, the others will also mobilize to attack in a massive manner. And that has been the volatile situation over here. We'll try our best to make sure that all should try to remove this type of ethnicity that is trying to keep them in this type of situation up to now. And well, for now, we are going to meet the two factions, the onion sellers and then the scrap dealers. Rexec has called for they want to talk to them so that at least they should maintain their peace. But we will continue to be here.
Well, thank you very much. That's an account of what happened in Agbogbloshie today, and it's volatile. It's one of those things that I think you're raising that you don't take it lightly because it can easily escalate.
And the level of resilience is quite marvelous. You said the thing started in the morning or during lunchtime, and by 3 p.m. they were back to business. So that culture of violence has become an integral part of the people living over there. And sometimes look at Agbogbloshie, and the thing you think of is a refugee camp in a war-torn country. I think governments and successive ones that come after them should make it a matter of policy to do something about the situation, or else this vicious cycle of sporadic violence will continue to be with us.
Let's bring one up in. I'm sure you have a whole document on Fadama, old Fadama.
Yeah, well, given what has happened, when you look at it, there are a number of factors that we need to pay attention to, because it's also related to unplanned urbanization and people also not having the basic facilities to live a decent life. So, because the story of the little girl going to answer nature's call which is the spark of the conflict. And then the family also come in to question why they have to beat the girl, because what the girl did, they know is not the right thing, but almost maybe everybody does it in that community. So open defecation is a problem. So these are sanitary problems that I think, as he said, should be taken into consideration so that a deliberate policy is designed to work with government and development partners and civil society, to enhance the living standards of the people. But looking at the way the conflict started and how quickly it then translated into something like an ethnic conflict, it also shows that conflict is really dynamic, because people might not even look at the root cause of the conflict. They now interpret it based on their own perception. So it shows that the underlying issues have been there. So the beating of the child was just the spark. That was just like the trigger for the conflict to erupt, but they have grudges. And the police officer clearly indicated that people are living on ethnic segregation in that community. And I think it is important that they find a way of working together in an integrated manner and also establishing platform where they can discuss issues related to conflict. So maybe there is no platform where the people can sit down and ask questions. What happened? What is the role of the leadership from the community elders? What is the role of the leadership of the youth in dealing with questions related to conflict? So if there's no platform, the law of nature is that if you don't occupy a space, with a positive force, a negative force might settle in. And that is what we are seeing there. So it should be a deliberate attempt to establish platforms of engagement and then work with the community to build their capacity on dialogue and mediation. Because it is, when you live in the vicious cycle of violence, the culture of violence becomes ingrained in you. You don't even know what to do when there is an issue that you need to discuss and find solution. Because conflict is a positive thing, but if you don't know how to negotiate and find amicable solutions, that is in the interest of the entire community.
I don't know if you have, realistically, all for them is a time bomb. How long do we have before it explodes? Because it's not going to last forever. And I was trying to find this report, but just, quite a few years ago, there were about as much as 30,000 children out of school, just growing. Yep. And that's a big number. So, I'm sure security services how long before, it gets out of hand?
It is interesting you are raising this question, because if the children are not going to school, we know that they are not being prepared to lead a responsible adult life. And the environment itself is chaotic. There are no facilities. And then that adds to the stress the people undergo. So the little problem they are confronted with, the reaction is violence. And as you rightly said, if the future generation are not being molded and educated to understand the values of peace, the values of responsibility, it is a ticking time bomb. Because the environment itself, provides the opportunity for them to engage in violent acts, and the little opportunity they have, then they are going to, be lured into committing atrocities. So it is a real problem, and I think not only focusing on the educational aspect, but also the provision of social services for the people, clean water, housing, toilets. These are basic necessities. If they are not available, you cannot expect people to live in dignity, and that's a major issue.
Well, the argument is that because they inhabit the place illegally, they're not going to legally have a school and legally have a clinic and legally have sanitation, because then you make them legal.
But the point is, Nana, it has already happened. And as a prudent government, whether MPP or NDC, it doesn't really matter. How do you curtail the unintended consequences of such an act of illegality? So 100,000 within that small space is indeed a ticking time bomb. It's a tinderbox that can explode at any point in time. And most of the time when we talk slums in this country, Nana, we only wait for things to happen. Then the police forces go in to quell the dissidents. And after it has happened, over the next week, they will withdraw from the place, then we forget Old Fadama. I think there should be a deliberate effort to engage with such a community so that they will feel a part of Ghana and know that they collectively need to also pay their widow's mite, contribute their widow's mite for the collective, development and security of the country. But we only wait. When things happen, then we pour in and show some love and care. Then after some time, we recede at the end of the day. So therefore, I want to see a long-standing, perpetual engagement with the community, just as Diallo has indicated, so that we open the channels of communication and interface amongst all the people over there. But for how long will we talk about this ethnocentric undertone that serves as a spark all the time when people are at daggers drawn with each other without making any palpable efforts in resolving those differences? And I must say, this area is dominated by Muslims. So therefore, as much as possible, how much are we using the mosques and various Islamic gatherings to engage these people and educate them? And the BNI and other security agencies should have ears and eyes on the ground in such slum areas, because external, militant organizations would want a place like Old Fadama to recruit from in times of violence. So we have to be quite careful, and I agree with you perfectly. It's a bomb waiting to explode.
You see, there's an old conflict between the Kokumbas and the Nanumbas. I don't know where the Zamnama people fall in place. Are they neutral?
I think originally I am part of the Gompa. My mom is from Kumbungu. My dad is Guruma. So I'm a third generation Ghanaian. My great grandfather was from Burkina Faso. So when the conflict happened in the 90s, I was a young person, and I saw some of my aunties trickle down to the south from the northern part. So when those people came, they didn't have decent places to stay at. So there were ad hoc, vicinities for them to occupy. That is why Nima and Mamobi and other Muslim areas are quite choked with people. So Nanumbas are just a fraction of the Dagomba, ethnicity. I think the founder of Dagbon called them Nanu, those who belong to the right. And geographically, when you look at the makeup of Dagbon, they belong to the right. So when the Kumbes fought against them, they felt like it was a moral obligation. The rest of Dagbon felt it was a moral obligation to throw their weight behind the Nanus. So at the end of the day, they came down. So it is in school, in Legon and all other places we studied, you could feel a sense of belonging that those people had to their ethnicity, and it's quite natural. So for them to find themselves in such distress in a slum called Agbogbloshie, certainly there's strength in unity, and people would want to coalesce around their own stock. So it's quite understandable. When you travel abroad, you would want to look for Africans like you, because in their bosom you will find solace. So Nanus and then the Konkombes have always been at daggers drawn because they look askance at each other. The Zabrama people and the Gao people are coming from elsewhere within the sub-region, and they are also historically Muslims. So when they come, they don't stay at cantonments. They go to these areas, and over time, some of them have borne Ghanaian passports, Ghanaian voter ID cards. Some of them have intermarried with Ghanaians, and they are a part and parcel of us today. So you can't look at them as aliens, because they are a part of the Ghanaian community now. So as much as possible, the Fulanis as well. So therefore, I think there needs to be this grand scheme by government. Every government of any incumbency should make it a policy to further integrate these people. For Ghana's national cohesion to be achieved, I believe so well that the motley collection of different ethnicities needs to be taught to be well integrated in the moral fiber and the societal makeup of this country, so that whether Zabroma or Dagomba or Nanumba or Kukumba, we will learn to live in peace with each other.
Alimo, I can imagine there are people who are against each other today who don't even know why they are fighting.
Yeah.
Because maybe it was their great uncles or, father's father who started some disagreement, and the resentment has been there till now, and they will fight at the least chance, but don't actually know why, we have to fight.
Absolutely. So that's just what I refer to when I talk about the dynamics of conflict. It will start just like a tree. Sometimes a tree can start a forest, but the main tree has died down, but it's the fruits that are now germinating, the seeds that are now germinating, you know, to make the forest. So the same way, people, you know, when there's conflict, they tend to keep the history, and especially when it is ethnic related, and there is no system in place for them also to resort to in terms of dealing with the issues. So they only feel protected when they think they are lean to their ethnic side. And that then makes the situation very volatile. But in reality, if they understand about the need of peaceful coexistence and how they need to work together as a community to deal with the issues of the community collectively, and then they will understand about...
Can that be done here, or should it be done up there where the kings will now send a message, look, now there's peace? Can the inhabitants here, you know, talk to make the peace if, you know, the roots are still, you know, simmering?
Well, we need to tackle it at all levels. I don't think it has to be just from the bottom up or from the top down or bottom up. We need to engage all communities and work with the communities to establish, you know, platform where people can go to in terms of discussing issues related to conflict. For example, the situation that I've just talked about, if, let's say, in the community where the conflict erupted, let's say we have 5 ethnic groups. If they had formed maybe a committee wherein all these ethnic groups are represented, and now they have the leadership that is responsible to investigate whatever happens, and then speak to their people to tell them that there's no need to fight. Whatever the problem is, we are going to investigate it. Ghana is a democratic country. We live under the rule of law. So whatever happens, let us deal with it at our own level. If we are not able to deal it with you know, using our own mechanisms, then we can now resort to other external support, maybe inviting the police or going to the court. So, but if such a platform does not exist, then everybody tends to take, you know, the law into their own hands, and the situation becomes very chaotic.
Nana, a little more about how resentment is bequeathed to posterity and generations that come afterwards. I think the reconciliation regime in Ghana has been quite weak. I've sat with Emmanuel Bombande on a couple of occasions, and I believe ONEP is doing a lot. In the case of the Boko crisis, the Nampandori crisis, they are trying to engage the stakeholders involved. So as much as possible, anybody who has lost a limb or has got his ego bruised would want to have his own pound of flesh from the one who has perpetrated the crime against him. That is why, don't even talk about the Konkombes, don't talk about people who come from outer spheres of certain ethnicities. Within Dagbon itself, the Dagomba community, since the savage killing of the king in 2002, what level of justice have we seen from government? Have those who have really suffered been made to be placated at the end of the day? So you leave them hanging in the balance. And at any point in time when these immediate causes come, they just spark the conflict. So there can't be serenity and peace when there is no justice.
You see, because I was just going to ask you that, you know, I'm a chief, and when tribal sentiment takes in, I mean, common sense is out of the window long time. It's just that tribal principle, sentiment, and to be able to talk sense into us, the tradition, look, let it go. It's like, you know, people fight over land that much. And meanwhile, just behind that is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fallow land. But this is what my grandfather left me, and therefore, forget about the hundreds of land that is left. I want this patch, whether I can do with it or not.
No, it's about the psyche. It's about the mentality of people. That is why I believe we can't leave this country into the hands of politicians. We discuss politics virtually all the time. How do we engage? What exchange programs? There's nothing wrong with taking kids from Christ the King and making them spend some time in the north. What level of interaction do these kids get at this, you know, infantile level? So that they grow with it to be accommodating of the next person who is different from them. So that you don't stay in your little corner thinking Odumasa is heaven on earth and better than all other places.
That's a little republic. We are a republic on our
Oh my goodness.
We're not on Ghana map. So we're a republic.
So
We're a republic like Lesotho in South Africa.
That's just a tongue-in-cheek, but I believe so well, and the onus lies upon people like you, Nan. I know so well that they are devils when you engage with neighboring chiefs and all, and that is key. So that as much as possible, we'll all be made to understand we are one and the same people. That is very, very important in, giving people that needed, mentality and, and framework of thinking. So that at any point anybody suggests anything evil to you, you don't embrace it because of ethnicity or religion.
I mean, Diallo, the 21st century is 15 years old. I mean, should we be talking about tribal sentiments in today's age? Indeed, if somebody was born in Ghana, are they not Ghanaian? Why are we so still locked up into our little Edumasa this and Jekiti that? And why can't we just break away and be Ghanaian, so that if I was born in Kaneshie, I'm from Kaneshie. If I was born in Cape Coast, I'm from Cape Coast. But if somebody can be born in Wa and he says, no, I'm from Axim, it goes, why can't we break away from that?
Yeah, one of the reasons could be that because the system is not capable of catering for everybody. And usually when opportunities are very scarce, people tend, to attach sentiment and relations and patrimonial relationships, and that's why it is important for a proper system to be put in place so that opportunities can be guaranteed to all. But if you look at the level of development in Africa, most of the African economies are struggling. Yeah. And that then exposes the people and they become so vulnerable. And if the opportunities are not there, you tend to favor maybe your family group. It is just natural as human beings that you can love your family more than any other person else. And your ethnic group more than any other person else. It happens. It's not only in Africa. It's part of it is a natural phenomenon of the human race. But if the system that is in place is solid enough to provide opportunities for everybody without discrimination, then people will not see the need for them, to cling onto this kind of parochial.
So the more cosmopolitan you become, the more detached you are from your roots, and that is key. And poverty and conflict thrives where there is poverty and lack of opportunities for people. So therefore, I believe nobody, they say in our own local parlance, would want to point to the direction of their house with their left hand. It's a part of us being Africans, that you'd want to say, I'm from this village or that village. If you really want to contribute to your ethnicity, build them a school. Build them a clinic. That is the best way you can contribute, rather than buying armaments and then surreptitiously transporting them to Boko and other flashpoint areas to only exacerbate the situation rather than abate it.
I'm going to take a break, and then when I come back, we'll look at how politicians would always, every 4 years, go to Old Fadama and solicit for votes, and then wait till the next 4 years and go back and solicit for votes. And I can guarantee you, come 2016, they will be there. What do we do about it? Should we annul all those votes? Because indeed, if it's an illegal settlement and they don't deserve a clinic and sanitation, then clearly their votes shouldn't count. I'm coming back. Thank you very much for staying, and keep posting your comments on Facebook. I will get to them and read it. So join us on Facebook. Look for Joy News on Facebook and post your comment there. But just before we went on a break, I was looking at how divisive our politics are and how they take advantage. And then you tend to realize one political party, leans behind this tribe and play them against it and play them against that. How do we solve that? I mean, is it possible? I don't. That's a milestone to solve.
I think, Nana, politicians will always be politicians anyway. If within an acreage of 30, you can have up to 100,000 people, you can glean some 20,000 votes from there. So the issue of illegality doesn't come at all. And I need to ask this question. Agbogbloshie, is it a constituency? If it is, how many constituencies are there?
It falls under Odododio.
So the whole of it is under Odododio constituency. Yeah. And there are polling stations there when we vote. So if you believe that people have their thumbprints and they can empower you, at the end of the day, why don't you reciprocate in equal measure by giving them the needed development? And I think we should look at what is feasible. It's not possible to move 100,000 people. Where will you take them? Accra has no outskirts now. Where you call Bujumbura has been occupied now. So therefore, I believe, I agree with Diallo, the basic amenities need to be there, the quality of life has to be lifted, so that people will feel that they are part of that country. And from nothing, you can build the whole thing. So therefore, if it is small, there are areas where you can build, high-rise buildings, even though it's been something that has always been on the drawing board and has never been implemented. You can better the architecture of some of the buildings there so that you increase their quality of life. Make them part of the mainstream so that they feel okay. Many of the exuberant young men that are at Agbogbloshie are dealing scraps. So how do you give them a better life? It has become a dump for electronic materials coming from around the sub-region. So I think there needs to be an advertent national policy, regardless of the politicians that are ruling the country at any point in time, to make up the place, make it a better place, but keep the people there, because it is the people that make up a nation. You can't go sacking people expecting that the nation will continue to develop. You need the people. So the AMA should just go beyond reproach. Once in a while, they'll go and raise down certain structures over there because they are on the path of water and all that. I think we need to do much more than we are doing. So the quality of life at Agbogbloshie will be much better for the people there to stay.
Yeah, another challenge that I think we see is, one, we are unable to identify our citizens. Even those who live in the proverbial East Cantonment and East Legons, we don't even know where they live or where they are or who they are, let alone 100,000 people. And that's where these illegal small arms would be generating. So who do you even know who is keeping what and where to track them to know that, what's the challenge there?
Yeah, absolutely, because in such a situation, the challenge is that, it's not an organized place wherein things are monitored properly. So it becomes a magnet for crime and criminality, and a target for recruitment of people also for the perpetuation of violence. So he talked about the need for politicians to invest in such places, but also we need to diversify the approach and also look at how even business communities, there are so much potential in such places that if investments are well planned and carried out there, it could transform that from a negative place to a positive place that can generate income for those who invest in such places. It just takes a critical thinking to look at how to solve such an issue. We need to embark on research. How do you deal with slum areas like that and help the people build their capacity? The people are so resilient, they are so intelligent, and they have a lot of potentials. But just because the potential have not been tapped into, now they're using that negatively. Yeah. So I think there are opportunities that we can also see out of that.
But the inflows of these illegal weapons, are we able to tap or slow down or find who's making them so they don't get in the wrong hands?
Yeah, the illegal weapon issue, I think Small Arms Commission has done a lot of work on that, engaging even the local manufacturers, because the approach should be you need to provide them an alternative livelihood, because they are using the skills. They're very skillful people and they're putting their skills into use. How can you maybe transform that into something positive? Like instead of producing maybe guns, why not produce agricultural implements? But there is also a need to support them, because using your bare hands and fire, it will be difficult for you to do something that can promote agriculture. So it requires investment. How do you build their skills in alternative means of livelihood and also provide the infrastructure for them to practice their skills. So
and then I don't think we have problems in the world. We only have challenges, because you can turn things around and create opportunities from problems.
Absolutely.
And it will marvel you. Go to Agbogbloshie, you will find a young man who can be an electrician on a Monday, a mason on Tuesday, and on Thursday he's doing something else. So therefore, capacity building will be very instrumental in transforming areas like Agbogbloshie. And it needs investment. Someone needs to make that conscious decision that we are doling out this amount of money to make up this place. But for as long as we are living this vicious cycle of every 4 years, we come and sweet talk you into voting us into power and then leave you in the vagaries of the difficulties you find yourselves, we'll just pretend to be moving, but we'll be stationary at the end of the day.
I mean, I suggested that you have to educate the young ones out of the system.
So you've lost interest in the current generation?
No, you see, we have 100,000 people, and that's even, you know, like a safe estimate. They suspect probably maybe 120.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have 100,000 people, out of which at the time they did the count, I can't get the details, 30,000 children were out of school. And those who were in school are no school to write home about. Yeah. So basically, you know, all the children there have very shaky education. Yeah. And I'm saying, unless you educate the child so that they want to be a nurse and therefore doesn't want to live there, this one wants to be a teacher, this one wants to be a banker, a lawyer, don't come back and live there. They're just going to grow and have children and then stay there, so that they will leave their parents and go on. Gradually the parents will die away and the place will reduce. Maybe not expand or reduce. I mean, I don't see any other way out.
Maybe this is, you know, substitution by natural disaster. Some people call for, you know, disasters to strike so that the population of the world can reduce somewhat. It will be very difficult to thin out the population of a slum like that over time. You're talking about a project that could take 20, 30, years. 40 years, but still you would need the political will to do that. Build a model school for them, make it enticing. These are very industrious people, but the opportunities are just not there. So make them feel a part of us. Many of the young people in this country, and I interact with so many of them because I'm a young man, they have lost confidence in our system. They've lost confidence in our leadership. They've lost confidence in our country. So therefore, you need to stretch that olive branch and then hand over the needed support they need to move them from the doldrums they find themselves.
Let me take a couple of comments from Facebook. This is from Abdul Fatao Zakora. It says, we Ghanaians are facing a lot of problems, killing people everywhere. Why? And then Aklogo Patrick says, God will do it, but people really need education. See, education. Abdullah Wahab says, the only two things that I know is prayers and intermarriages. Yes, intermarriages is best. Should encourage the Kokumbas to find girlfriends from the Nanumba area, and then all this would stop. I agree with you too, Abdullah. And Bismarck says, this mentality of one nation, one people must always be in our minds. The best way to end this is intertribal marriages. Again, Samson says a hungry man is always an angry man. And Odysseus Plasm says actually they need serious education to stop that ethnic matter. That's where there is retarded development within those areas. So education keeps coming up, but this intermarriage thing, I was going to move on to curfews, but let's deal with intermarriages. I mean, how helpful would that be?
Yeah, it is one of the social factors that can, you know, hold such places, you know,
but would
together.
the father be happy to give the daughter away to another number? Probably not. Well,
it depends. I want to believe there are intermarriages between them. I want to believe that, and even I'm sure the young folks are also interacting at their own level.
Yeah, I think the young people will break away from the long traditions of segregation. And over time, and they meet, and our education has created a platform. Yeah. If you won't let me marry her in Dagbon, I'll meet her in Legon, or I'll meet her in KNUS. So
the curfews, you know, every now and then you hear there's a curfew here and there's a curfew there. As a temporary solution, or does it help cool matters down? How helpful are curfews?
They are very helpful, very, very helpful, in the sense that when there is open violence, that's the only way you can separate the parties that are fighting, and then create the space for other actors to now come and deal with the substantive issues. Because as long as they are fighting, like civil society cannot engage because it is too risky for them. And that's why we must commend the police. They are always really very proactive in dealing with such situations. But their role is just to stop the fighting. We need to understand that. Now, after the fighting has ended, there's need for civil society and now the National Peace Council to engage the parties, you know, to deal with the root causes of the conflict and then develop programs, because peace is a process, it's not an event. The fighting can be an event, but the peace is a process. And they need to have action plans, what they need to implement over time. And these should be monitored. And that is why he said there is no sustained plan, you know, in engaging with the communities. So they need to deal with the issues. And when you go to the community, the first engagement will be to find out what are the issues. Put all of them on the table and let the parties agree that these are the issues. And then the next step will
agree that these are the issues.
Yeah, they agree. Very important. And then the next stage is you engage the parties, because what can we do to solve these issues? Because they have the solutions. All we require is to create the platform for them to engage in the discussions so that they can take ownership of the conflict, take ownership of the solution of the conflict, and also implement them. And we will now provide the support in terms of monitoring and identifying what are the new emerging issues and how do we also develop other mechanisms to deal with them. So these are the sustainable way of dealing with conflict. But the curfew is an important element of ending the violence, but that should not be
it's a stopgap measure.
Let me take a quick break and find out. I mean, are we saying that we've never tried to engage people to create this sustainable? It's a bit, you know, beyond me. I'll come back and then we'll find out why it is that we haven't done that. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying. Ethnic clashes at Agbogbloshie, and I'm talking to Alimao Diallo, Regional Coordinator, WANEP, and Ibad Ibrahim, International News and Security Analyst. And just before, when I was just trying to say that, haven't we tried this, or haven't we done this, or is it not ongoing?
I think I should credit the Rawlings regime for doing a lot in rolling back the momentum of certain conflicts we saw in certain parts of the country, the AFRC and the PNDC and NDC-1. It was during that period that, because of his background in the army, he was able to help quell the fights in Dagbon quite largely. But looking at a well-structured long-term program, if we had anything like that, or even a semblance of it, the Alavayo and Konya conflict wouldn't have dragged on for a century. It's a centuries-old problem, and we've not been able to solve it. So therefore, I believe that the National Peace Council is there. We should give it the needed biting teeth, and the politicians should let the council operate. And they should have the free hand to be engaging the various factions. You remember when the issue of religious discrimination came, we said the politicians should take a back seat and allow the National Peace Council to tackle the situation head on. So therefore, I think they should be much more empowered, so that they don't also always stay in Accra. The National House of Chiefs as well also have a role to play, so that they will interact with government, they will interact with the National Peace Council, because these problems are rooted in land ownership, they are rooted in ethnicity, so that all these influential people that have got a modicum of traction on the various actors in Boko, in Nampandori, and all those areas where we have flashpoints, as well as the problems we have in cosmopolitan areas, in Kumasi, in Accra. Let's get all the stakeholders involved and invest in security. Nana, most of the time we just wait when the dust settles. There are a series of meetings and we forget. We don't look at the root causes of the problems. Committees are formed and they unravel after a period of time. So let's make good on the promises we make people after such conflicts, so that there will be a long drawn-out program to be able to keep the peace.
Let me bring, I mean, yesterday we talked a bit of South Africa. Now, you were not here, but I'm sure I want to hear your take on a bit of South Africa since it's conflict. This xenophobia thing. I mean, I was trying to get from the High Commissioner yesterday that, did they go to sleep and just wake up all xenophobic, or these are sentiments that have brewed from childhood till now? I mean, what's ONEP's take on this issue?
Yeah, this is symptomatic of a deep-seated problem in South Africa, which is also tied to the history of the country, because we all understand about the apartheid era, and you know, they receive a lot of solidarity support from African countries and from all over the world to dismantle apartheid. And so that is why the gruesome images we saw in the last couple of days shocked the world. And so after the apartheid regime was dismantled, I think, you know, they embarked on a transitional justice mechanism to deal with the issues of mass atrocities that were committed during the apartheid era. And then also rolled out the DDR program, the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. But I think what we are seeing now is, you know, it is asking a huge question about the success of such programs, because, you know, a nation that has, you know, been engulfed in violence, and the people, you know, have imbibed the culture of violence. So taking that away from them does not mean taking away the gun from them, but you also need to now re-educate them for them to also understand the concept or the culture of peace. So you substitute the culture of violence to the culture of peace and now integrate them into society. And I think that has not been properly done. And you also look at the lack of opportunities that the blacks are facing in South Africa. Because during the negotiation for the end of apartheid, you know, Mandela and his colleagues agreed that the whites should stay, should maintain their jobs for 5 years, and also they also maintain all the resources they had. And now they have all the opportunities, and the blacks are marginalized, and the leadership, the current leadership is also now being questioned in terms of how well they are managing the resources of the country. So people are frustrated, but unfortunately they are taking their anger, you know, at the wrong people, because there has been an empirical research carried out by the Institute for Security Studies to deal with the two myths that is driving this violence. The first is that it is foreigners that are taking over the jobs of South Africans, and the second is that foreigners are also responsible for crime in South Africa.
Wow.
But the research revealed that 95% of people that are employed in South Africa are South Africans, and then about more than 95% of people of the crimes are committed by South Africans.
Wow.
So they are just looking. The issue is now they are targeting the soft targets.
Yeah,
frustration overblown.
But Nana, it's discomforting. If you say you want to attack foreigners because they are taking your jobs, what about the white people that even are employers in the country?
Embarrassing?
It's embarrassing. And finally, I think South Africans are facing an identity crisis. They can't reconcile who they are today and who they were during the oppression of the apartheid system. And they need to be cozied up to, so they'll be properly reintegrated into the African program and make them a part and parcel of us.
Thank you very much, Ibad, and thank you very much, Alimu. And I want to say thank you to directors, McBride and Azalu, and also the producers, Famous, Nijani, and Jennifer Jane, for bringing the production. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching, and beautiful cameraman. Thank you.